Okay, so this is something that is super important because what I'm about to mention here is something that I most definitely did all the time, especially for like some of the theory topics that are a bit heavy. So what we mentioned here, right? This you can also use it for like all your subjects. Remember, this is the same for things like physics. You want to know exactly how much each topic counts, know exactly how much time you need to spend on it. Try and make this systematic. Don't just guess. You see, because the moment you start guessing that I should maybe spend a week on this and 2 days on this, already you're off the ball. You see, the time that you're going to spend on something, might as well calculate it, know exactly how much time it needs to be. So what I'm saying here is, okay, let's see, simulate the exam once or twice before you start studying anything. So the keyword here is before. So you may be asking yourself, wait, what do you mean by before I start studying? So what I mean is, say you going to write a physics exam 3 weeks from now, and you have approximately 3 weeks to like really study and stuff. What you want to do is, before those 3 weeks start, or in the beginning of those 3 weeks, you want to simulate the exam twice or thrice. So what I mean by simulate is, I mean write out the exam the exact same way you would write it out on the day of the exam. So what I mean is, when you simulate, there we go, set time aside to go through an entire paper as though you were actually writing that exam. So what I mean is, for example, obviously, I mean, this is, I think, kind of straightforward, but if it's a 3-hour exam, then you want to set aside 3 hours to go through a whole paper. When you will be going through this whole paper, remember, don't try and like, look through some notes first, or like try and study something or whatever. No, that's beside the point. What you want to do here is, you want to somewhat think to yourself, okay, fine, if say these 3 weeks pass and I don't study anything, this is roughly what I'm about to get, or this is roughly what I'm exactly going to get. That's the idea behind simulating the exam. You see it once or twice or even 3 times before you start studying, because it gives your brain the idea that, okay, wait, this is actually where I stand, and this is actually what I know, and this is actually what I don't know. Because when you'll be writing out that exam, right, I mean, you'll be writing out the exam, you see, and then your brain is going to be taking note of things that you already know, you see, and your brain will be taking note of things that you don't know, you see. That's the big idea. Your brain needs to know exactly, okay, fine, I know this and I don't know this. You see, that's what happens when you simulate. You see, that's the main idea, because your brain will be in a state where it now knows, okay, fine, for the next 3 weeks, I need to focus less on this and focus more on this. So you may think, even before you start studying, you kind of know exactly what you know and what you don't know. Trust me, it doesn't work like that. Unless you actually simulate, you kind of don't know. What is also going to happen is that while you're simulating, you are going to gather information on what is important. You're going to gather information on what is important. You're also going to gather information on how questions are asked, and you're also going to be able to spot some trends. You see, that's why before you do start studying, I always used to try and go through at least 3 papers. You see, even if this takes me a whole 2 days of me just going through papers before I even start studying, this helped 100%. Because, I mean, if I went through 3 papers, right, I knew, okay, fine, this is what is important, and I also knew, okay, fine, this is how questions are asked. And then I also knew, okay, wait, this is how, or rather, this is what they normally ask about. You see, this could be for any topic, even if it's like a theory exam or a theory subject or whatever. It's super duper important to do this, because the issue with exams is that you want to cut out the uncertainty. You want to cut out that part of your brain that's a bit anxious, the part of your brain that does not know how they're going to ask this, how they're going to do this, yada 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 yada. Simulating helps you to get rid of that. Now, what I'm about to mention here is also super duper important. When you're going to be simulating the exam, you are also going to get an idea of how the memo wants you to answer questions. What I mean is, you could basically write out something, right, and it could actually be correct, but then when you see exactly how the memo wants it, you can now use that as the way that you are going to answer questions. because there are some cases where you may maybe get a question right and it's like a 4-mark question, but then what you write maybe gets you like 2 marks or 3 marks. The memo will obviously help you to see, okay, what's that third or what's that fourth thing that you maybe needed to say, so that you can actually get all the 4 marks. You see, that's another big no-brainer with simulating an exam. When you're going to be simulating exam, you're going to gather information on how the memo wants you to answer questions. Now, me having to have said this, you need to keep in mind that you need to always mark your papers after simulating. I mean, this also low-key sounds like a no-brainer, but then trust me, most of the time people will like write a question paper and then it'll go so bad because they think it went so bad, and then they won't even mark it, and then they'll maybe just say, okay, let me just rush to study. No, that's not how it works. You see, that's not how it works. It's almost like when you're baking, or like you want to like, you know, roast something. You're always going to heat up the oven first. You don't just throw in the meat or the dough in there and then, you know, you just hope and pray that everything is going to turn out fine. I mean, low-key everything will turn out fine, but that's not how it works. You need to do the prerequisites. Whatever needs to be done before a certain task is something that you want to get comfortable with. You see, it's almost like stretching before you exercise. If you don't stretch before you exercise, one day it's really going to catch up to you and you're really going to get hurt. So it's the same idea with these kinds of things. You see, don't be too quick to jump into studying. Know exactly what you need to study, because that's how you end up wasting time. You see, you don't know what you need to study, you don't know what you know don't know how they ask questions, you don't know how they answer them. It's just a mess. So for you to clean up the mess, you know, you need to mark your papers so that you know exactly how your memos answer questions. What you will also find out is alternatives to answering the same question. You see, especially with things like math and physics. You see, with things like math and physics, you always have things like option 1, option 2. You see, and you normally find out that, okay, wait, I've actually been doing the harder thing, and then your memo is actually showing you like the easier way of like actually doing something, and then you can actually adopt that method. And last but not least, when you simulate an exam, you will get an idea of how you manage your time in an exam. Apart from you getting an idea of how you manage your time in an exam, when you simulate an exam, you will also see that you actually have enough time, because, you know, during the day of the exam, sometimes it seems as though like your 3 hours just like fly by so fast. But then when you actually simulate an exam and just sitting there, you actually see, okay, wait, 3 hours is actually a long time, you see. And then that's how you're able to like keep calm in an exam, to know that, okay, I actually have enough time and I can actually get through this. So that's another big deal. You see, you need to simulate your exam so that you are able to like gather information on everything that will be happening and all that shandies.